Now that you have understood the different roles played by the star operator in C language, let me get back to my data pointer and function pointer. Anyway, firstly, I need to focus on the data. And as you can notice that the name of the data is A, and if you really want to access it in the direct method, all that you have to mention is the name of the data. Of course, you need to mention it within the printf, and I would definitely get access to the data 50. But the alternative approach or the pointer approach has got nothing to do with this, and hence I would eliminate it. And what is the alternative approach? You know that the alternative approach is made up of these 3 steps. Now, the first step is that I need to create a data pointer, and you know I can create a data pointer P like this. Obviously, I have made use of the star operator. But then one thing that you must understand is that when you would be creating a pointer, it would be dangling like that. Now, what is meant by dangling? If I will have to give you an analogy, it's like a bachelor who still has not decided as to who the spouse is really going to be. So it's dangling, trying to find out whom it has to get associated with. That way, I think you would remember dangling for a long duration through this example. Nevertheless, you cannot let it remain dangling all the time. You need to get it married with a variable. Now tell me that this dangling pointer P, how do we get it married with a variable? That's by assigning an address to it. Now tell me, should we really assign to it the address of data, or should we assign to it the address of a function? Obviously, I need to assign to it the address of data because it is a data pointer after all. So I would be assigning the address of my data A to the pointer like this. And as you can notice it, that by doing it, it loses its dangling nature and becomes a specific pointer. And as you can notice, it is specifically pointing to the data A. And what is the last step? Well, as you can notice, the pointer is anyway pointing to the data. What you need to do is to penetrate inside. You need to poke the pointer, you need to penetrate the pointer, or technically speaking, you need to dereference the pointer. And how to dereference? Well, you know, we make use of the star operator like this. Only thing is that we need to place it within the printf statement like this, and when we would execute, obviously, we would get access to that data 50. So this is the alternative approach using which you can access the data. And as you can notice, I have made use of the star operator, but I'm sure now you have absolutely no confusion about the star operator's usage. In the first case, I have made use of the star in the declaration statement. After all, the statement begins with the data type, which means that it's a declaration statement, and whenever you make use of the star in the declaration statement, you know you should treat it as the pointer creation operator. After all, I am creating the pointer P using that star. Yes, it's a dangling pointer, no doubt, but definitely the star has helped you in creating a pointer. And what about the second star? Well, as you can notice, definitely it's not a pointer creation operator, because as you can see in that statement that it doesn't begin with the data type. So it's not a declaration statement, it's an executable statement. Not just that, as you can notice, the star has just one operand P. It doesn't have 2 operands, which means that it is also not a multiplication operator, which only goes to show that the star there is performing dereferencing. In other words, I'm sure you've now been able to understand as to how, by using the alternative approach or the pointer approach, we can access the data. Can we really do it for the functions as well? Let me tell you. Now, let's shift our focus towards the function pointer. Now, you know that we have a function called exmp1, and it is such a function that it expects you to give 2 integers as the input, and it would not produce any output as such because void happens to be the return type. Anyway, if I will have to call this function, or if I will have to access the function in the direct method, then all that I have to do is to mention the name of the function like that. And you know that the function is such a function that it expects you to send parameters, and hence when you will mention its name, you will also have to probably mention the parameters, maybe 15 and 20. Anyway, this is what we call as the direct approach of accessing the function, and obviously the pointer approach has got nothing to do with it, and hence I would eliminate it. Now, what is this alternative approach or the pointer approach? Well, the first step is to create a pointer, and since I am supposed to access a function using the pointer, obviously I should not be creating a data pointer this time. Rather, I should be creating a function pointer like this. And you know that I have created a function pointer p, which can point to such a function which would accept 2 integers as the input and would return void. But as I have told you, this pointer p that you have created is a dangling pointer. It is still not a specific pointer. Though the pointer p is compatible to point to exmp1, still nowhere you have specified that this function pointer p should point to exmp1. You have still not specified it anywhere. All that you have done is that you have created a function pointer p, and that is the reason that I am telling you that at this point in time it is a dangling pointer. Now, how to make it specific? You know that I can make it specific by assigning to it the address of a function. And how do I do that? Like this. Yes, by mentioning exmp1, what we get is the address of that function exmp1, and that is what I have assigned to my function pointer p. Yes, some of you could be wondering that I have not made use of the ampersand operator to get the address of the function. Let me tell you that you should make use of the ampersand operator to get the address if and only if it is the data that you are operating upon. Just in case you want the address of a function, then no need to use ampersand. Just by mentioning the name of that function without even mentioning the brackets, what you would be getting is the address. And as you can notice, in that second step, I have given the address of exmp1 to my function pointer p, which means that the dangling nature of p comes to an end and it becomes a specific pointer pointing to exmp1. And you know the last step. All that I have to do is to poke. All that I have to do is to penetrate, or in other words, all that I have to do is to dereference. And how do I dereference? Well, you know this is the way that I can dereference my function pointer. But then you also know that when you poke or when you dereference, you will also have to pass the parameters, and I would pass the parameters 15 and 20 like this. In other words, what you have been able to understand is that by making use of the function pointer, we can definitely call the function in an alternative approach like this. The last statement there happens to be equivalent to a function call, but then I have done it in the alternative approach. Obviously, if you will have to call the function through a pointer, then firstly you need to create the function pointer and then make it a specific function pointer, which is what I have done in the first 2 steps. And in the last step, I have made a call, but not a direct call, an indirect call through the pointer, and that is why we call pointers as providing us, the programmers, an alternative approach to access. While the data pointer is going to permit us an alternative approach to access data, the function pointers are going to provide us an alternative approach to call the function, or in other words, access the function.